Oh, that's not right. Wait a second. Welcome to the stream. Let me fix my facial expressions real quick. Welcome to today. We will be reading The Nameless City. We were supposed to read also The King in Yellow. However, after finding out that's an anthology, that will be next week, where we will be reading The King in Yellow on Tuesday and on Thursday. Sorry for the late change of that, but I thought it was just like a 40-minute short story. I could not have been more incorrect, but I did not want to cancel it completely, so that's just been moved to next week. Ooh, let me also quiet down the audio a little more on the desktop audio. Did it? I think that should be good. The thermonuclear war. Yes, I have seen what's been going. We're reading a horror story of, cataclysmic proportions, but, it turns out in real life, death has become destroyer of worlds. But because we are not, I'm happy I have this up right now, this picture up. Because we are not reading The King in Yellow today, instead we're going to use the remainder of our time to do a little bit more drawing again. And we're going to be drawing today Shog Mommy with a little bit of artistic liberty, because she's an Eldritch god, and I've been wanting for a very long time to draw her again, because I haven't been happy with with my last drawing I made of her. So I wanted to do her justice. So when we're done reading, we're gonna go right into that. Oh goodness. Okay. But that's why that is up, so I'd remember to say that. So let me get down the hand cam. And let us just jump right into The Nameless City by H.P. Lovecraft. Ooh. As you can see, we are using a different resource today, and that is because I could not get over the fact that I could not increase the size of the text on for the Lovecraft archive. It is insufferable because it's just, you just have to go through such a long line of text and then find your spot back on the other side, and it was driving me insane. But The Nameless City, just like the temple, I don't know what to expect with this. Just like the Cats of Ulthar, didn't know what to expect with that. Just going in blind. I assume a city's going to be involved. And we're not going to do a terrible accent this time, and I'm well rested. Don't worry, there's no signs I'm going to be having a crash out like yesterday, even though I'm sure you'd find that funny. But it's really bad for a reading stream, as the temple showed. The one thing I forgot, chat? Water. Always remember to stay hydrated. Ooh, we did read The Hound, and I did enjoy that a lot. The Hound was the first Lovecraft stream. I believe that one should be timestamped. I'm actually, before we start, let me double check and make sure that one is timestamped for you. But I will actually link out, that's actually not a well, that actually gives me an idea. I should link out to the first part that we did. Not the second part. The second part didn't go so well. But the first part, I'll link out to anyone who might be interested. Oh, no, it is timestamped. Excellent. So, and I'm only linking out on YouTube because Twitch doesn't like it when I link out to YouTube. So give me one moment to timestamp, not timestamp. Give me one moment to pin that. And with that, I think we can jump right into it. There we go. Okay. With all the preamble out of the way, with all the setup. When I drew nigh to the Nameless City, I knew it was accursed. I was traveling in a parched and terrible valley under the moon, and afar I saw a protruding uncannily above the sands as parts of a corpse may protrude from an ill-made grave. Fear spoke from the age-worn stones of this hoary survivor of the deluge, this great-grandfather of the eldest pyramid, and the viewless aura repelled me and bade me retreat from antique and sinister secrets that no man should see, and no man else had dared to see. Remote in the desert of Arabia lies the nameless city, crumbling and inarticulate, its low walls nearly hidden by the sands of uncounted ages. Sorry, I just wanted to get back to audio check. It must have been thus before the first stones of Memphis were laid, and while the bricks of Babylon were yet unbaked. I forget Memphis, Tennessee is named after that. There is no legend so old as to give it a name, or to recall that it was ever alive. But it is told of in whispers around campfires, and muttered about by grandmas, that's a typo, in the tents of sheiks, so that all the tribe shun it without wholly knowing why. It was of this place that Abdul al-Hazred, the mad poet, dreamed of the night before he sang his unexplained couplet. That is not dead which can eternal lie, that with strange aeons death may die. I should have known that the Arabs had good reason for shunning the nameless city. The city told of in the strange tales, but seen by no living man, yet I defied them, and went into the untrodden waste with my camel. I alone have seen it, and that is why no other face bears such hideous lines of fear as mine. Why no other man shivers so horribly when the night wind rattles the windows. When I came upon it in the ghastly stillness of the unending sleep, it looked at me, chilly from the rays of a cold moon amidst the desert's heat, and as I returned its look, I forgot my triumph at finding it, and stopped still with my camel to wait for the dawn. For hours I waited till the east grew gray, and the stars faded, and the gray turned to roseate light edged with gold. I heard a moaning and saw a storm of sand stirring among the antique stones, though the sky was clear and the vast reaches of the desert still. Then suddenly above the desert's far rim came the blazing edge of the sun, seen through the tiny sandstorm which was passing away, and in my fevered state I fancied that from some remote depth there came a crash of musical metal to hail the fiery disk of Menon pales it from the banks of the Nile. My ears rang, and my imagination seethed as I led my camel slowly across the sand to the unvocal place, that place which I alone of living men had seen. Sorry for the pause. I was looking to see if I had nasal spray because, of course, before I start reading, nothing. When I start reading, start to get a little congested. In and out amongst the shapeless foundations of the houses and the places I wandered, finding never a carving or inscription to tell of these men, if men they were, who built this city and dwelt therein so long ago. The antiquity of the spot was unwholesome, and I longed to encounter some sign or device to prove the city was indeed fashioned by mankind. There were certain proportions and dimensions in the ruins which I did not like. I had with me many tools and dug much within the walls of the obliterated edifices, but progress was slow and nothing significant was revealed. When night and the moon returned, I felt a chill wind which brought new fear, so that I did not dare to remain in the city. And as I went outside the antique walls to sleep, a small sighing sandstorm gathered behind me, blowing over the gray stones, though the moon was bright and most of the desert still. Hello, Lan. Ooh, we're still very early on in the story. He's just investigating the ruins. I awakened just at dawn. Hope you've been having a good day. From the pageant of horrible dreams, my ears ringing as from some metallic appeal. I saw. Why did I look away in the middle of reading? I saw the sun peering redly through the last gusts of a little sandstorm that hovered over the nameless city, that marked the quietness of the rest of the landscape. Once more I ventured within those brooding ruins that swelled beneath the sand like an ogre under a coverlet, and again dug vainly for relics of the forgotten race. At noon I rested, and in the afternoon I spent much time tracing the walls and bygone streets and the outlines of the nearly vanished buildings. I saw the city had been mighty indeed, and wondered at the sources of its greatness. To myself I pictured all the splendors of an age so distant that Chaldea could not recall it, and thought of Sarnath the doomed that stood in the land of Manar when mankind was young, and of Ib that was carven of gray stone before mankind existed. Ooh, good to hear you're doing well. All at... Oh, wait a second. Okay, that's good to know. I can still see that top line. You can't. All at once I came upon a place where the bedrock rose stalk through the sand and formed a low cliff, and here I saw with joy what seemed to promise further traces of an antediluvian people. Hewn rudely on the face of the cliff were the unmistakable facades of several small, squat rock houses or temples, whose interiors might preserve many secrets of ages too remote for calculation, though the sandstorms had long effaced any carvings which may have been outside. Very low. Oh, crap. I'm sorry. Where is... Hold up. I didn't notice the echo. Okay, we're gonna have to restart. Not the whole stream, but that's been happening the whole time. Where is that noise pollution coming from? It's coming from Twitch, isn't it? It's always Twitch. Great. Hold up. We're gonna have to restart the reading, which is frustrating because that's been going on the whole time. I'm so sorry. And desktop audio's on, so you guys definitely hear it. What? What the fuck? Oh, god damn it. That's frustrating. When I linked you guys the reading of Lovecraft, it also started playing it. That's embarrassing. I'm so sorry about that. Did you guys... Ooh. I suppose, okay, maybe the wind, what... Did you not hear me reading while I was reading? Ooh. If you didn't, I can just continue where I was. Did you not hear another voice while I was reading? I suppose I did make it quiet enough, and it was probably being overshadowed by the windstorm, but... If you guys didn't hear anything, I can just continue where I was. Ooh. Actually, let me... Actually, give me 1 minute to check stream to see if that's the case. Ooh. Just put up with me for 1 second. Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. It was not audible because my apologies. It was not audible after all. Ooh. I'm so sorry for stopping stream because of that. It was very audible to me, but apparently it was not being picked up by you guys, even though desktop audio is on. Okay. Ooh. Okay, sorry. I'll continue where I left off. Don't worry, I can timestamp this away. I'm so sorry about that. I'll just timestamp this and skip this part. I'm going crazy. Crap, where did I leave off? I don't know where I was, because I rolled up, I lost my place. I awakened just at dawn, a page in horrible stone mankind existed. All at once I came upon a place where the bedrock rose, a stalk seemed hewn rudely and face cliff. Okay, here's where we left off. Okay. Sorry about that. Just ignore that happened. Don't worry about it. You didn't hear anything. I heard things. It's fine. Mm. Okay. All at once I came upon a place where the bedrock... Oh, I just read that. Very low, the sand choked were all the dark apertures near me, but I cleared one with my spade and crawled through it, carrying a torch to reveal whatever mysteries it might hold. When I was inside, I saw the cavern was indeed a temple, and beheld plain signs of the race that had lived and worshipped before the desert was a desert. Primitive altars, pillars, and niches, all curiously low, were not absent. And though I saw no sculptures or frescoes, there were many singular stones clearly shaped into symbols by artificial means. The lowness of the sizzled chamber was very strange, for I could hardly kneel upright. But the area was so great that my torch showed only part of it at a time. I shuddered oddly in some of the far corners, for certain altars and stones suggested forgotten rites of terrible, revolting, inexplicable nature, and made me wonder what manner of men could have made that frequented such a temple. When I had seen all that the place contained, I crawled out again, avid to find what the temple's mighty yield. Night had now approached, yet the tangible... I should never do that when you're reading. Never just go, night! That's a bit of a shock to readers. Ooh, that's not good for the tone. Night had come... I did it again. Night had come now, approached, yet the tangible things I had seen made curiosity stronger than fear, so that I did not flee from the long moon-cast shadows that had daunted me when I first saw the Nameless city. In the twilight, I cleared another aperture, and with a new torch crawled into it, finding more vague stones and symbols, though nothing more definite than the other temple had contained. The room was just as low, but much less broad, ending in a very narrow passage crowded with obscure and cryptical shrines. About these shrines I was prying when the noise of a wind in my camel outside broke through the stillness and drew me forth to see what could have frightened the beast. The moon was gleaming vividly over the primitive ruins, lighting a dense cloud of sand that seemed blown by a strong but decreasing wind from some point along the cliff ahead of me. Okay. Ahead of me, I knew it was still chilly, sandy wind, which had disturbed the camel and was about to lead him to a place of better shelter. Then I chanced to glance up and saw that there was no wind atop the cliff. This astonished me and made me fearful again. But I immediately recalled the sudden local winds that I had seen and heard before at sunrise and sunset, and judged it was a normal thing. I decided it came from some rock fissure leading to a cave, and watched the troubled sand to trace it to its source, soon perceiving that it came from the black orifice of the temple a long distance south of me, almost out of sight. Against the choking sand cloud, I plodded towards this temple, which as I neared it loomed larger than the rest and showed a doorway far less clogged with caked sand. I would have entered had not the terrific force of the icy wind almost quenched my torch. It poured madly out of the dark door, sighing uncannily as it ruffled the sand and spread among the weird ruins. Soon it grew fainter and the sand grew more and more still, till finally all that was at rest again, but a presence seemed stalking among the spectral stones of the city, and when I glanced at the moon, it seemed to quiver as though it mirrored in an unquiet waters. I was more afraid than I could explain, but not enough to dull my thirst for wonder. So as soon as the wind was quiet again, I crossed into the dark chamber from which it had come. The temple, as I had fancied from the outside, was larger than either of those I had visited before, and was presumably a natural cavern, since it bore winds from some region beyond, where I could stand quite upright, but saw that the stones and the altars were as low as those in the other temples. On the walls and roof I beheld for the first time some traces of the pictorial art of the ancient race, curious curling streaks of paint that had almost faded or crumbled away. And on two of the altars I saw, with rising excitement, a maze of well-fashioned, curvilinear carvings. As I held my torch aloft, it seemed to me that the shape of the roof was too regular to be natural, and I wondered what prehistoric cutters of stone had first worked upon. Their engineering skills must have been vast. Then a bright flare of fantastic flame showed that form which I had been seeking, the opening to those remoter abysses whence the sudden wind had blown, and I grew faint when I saw that it was a small and plainly artificial door chiseled in the solid rock. I thrust my torch within, beholding a black tunnel with the roof arching low over a rough flight of very small, numerous, and steeply descending steps. I shall always see those steps in my dreams, for I came to learn that what they meant. At the time, I hardly knew whether to call them steps or mere footholds in a precipitous descent. My mind was whirling with mad thoughts, and the words and warnings of Arab prophets seemed to float across the desert from the land, and the men know to the nameless city, the men dare not know. Yet I hesitated only for a moment before advancing through the portal and commencing to climb cautiously down the steep passage, first step as though on a ladder. Drink water. Not only me, but you also stay hydrated, chat. You need to be drinking like 2 liters a day or something like that, or a gallon a day. Drink a gallon a day. What's the worst that can happen? If you're not peeing every hour on the hour, you're not doing it right. It is only in the terrible phantasms of drugs or delirium that any other man can have such a descent as mine. The narrow passage held infinitely down like some hideous haunted well, and the torch I held above my head could not light the unknown depths towards which I was crawling. I lost track of the hours and forgot to consult my watch, though I was frightened when I thought of the distance I must be traversing. There were changes of directions and of steepness, and once I came to a long, low, level passage where I had to wiggle my feet first along the rock floor, holding torch at arm's length beyond my head. The place was not high enough for kneeling, for after that were more of the steep steps, and as I was still scrambling down intermittently when my failing torch died out, I do not think I noticed it at the time, for when I did notice I was still holding it above me as if it were ablaze. I was quite unbalanced with that instinct for the strange and the unknown which had made me a wanderer upon earth and a haunter of far ancient and forbidden places. In the darkness there flashed before my mind fragments of my cherished treasury of demonic lore, sentences from Al-Hazred, the mad Arab paragraphs from the apocryphal nightmares of Damascus, and infamous lines from delirious image du monde of Gauthier de Metz. I repeated queer extracts and muttered of Afrasiab and the daemons that floated it with him down the Oxus, later chanting over and over again of phrase from one of the Lord Dunzani's tales, the unreverberate blackness of the abyss. Once, when the descent grew amazingly steep, I recited something in sing-song from Thomas More until I feared to recite more. A reservoir of darkness black, as witches' cauldrons are when filled with moon drugs in the eclipse distilled, leaning to look if foot might pass down through that chasm I saw beneath, as far as vision could explore, the jetty sides as smooth as glass, looking as if just vanished o'er with that dark pitch that seat of death throws out upon its slimy shore. Time, oh, time had quite ceased to exist when my feet again felt a level floor, and I found myself in a place slightly higher than the rooms in the two smaller temples now so incalculably far above my head. I could not quite stand, but could kneel upright, and in the dark I shuffled and crept hither and thither at random. I soon knew that I was in a narrow passage whose walls were lined with cases of wood having glass fronts. As in that Paleozoic and abysmal place I felt of such things as polished wood and glass, I shuddered at the possible implications. The cases were apparently ranged along each side of the passage at regular intervals, and were oblong and horizontal, hideously like coffins in shape and size. When I tried to move 2 or 3 for further examination, I found that they were firmly fashioned. I saw that the passage was a long one, so floundered ahead rapidly in a creeping run that would have seemed horrible had any eye watched me in the darkness, crossing from side to side, occasionally to feel of my surroundings and be sure the walls and rows of cases still stretched on. Man is so used to thinking visually that I almost forgot the darkness and pictured the endless corridor of wood and glass in its low, studded monotony as though I saw it, and then, in a moment of indescribable emotion, I did see it. Just when my fancy merged into real sight, I cannot tell, but there came a gradual glow ahead, and all at once I knew that I saw the dim outlines of a corridor that in cases revealed by some unknown subterranean phosphorescence. For a little while, all was exactly as I had imagined. I just realized. Never mind. All I had imagined it, since the glow was very faint, but as I mechanically kept stumbling ahead into the stronger light, I realized that my fancy had been but feeble. This hall was no relic of crudity like the temples in the city above, but a monument of the most magnificent and exotic art. Rich, vivid, and daringly fantastic designs and pictures formed of continuous schemes of mural paintings whose lines and colors were beyond description. The cases were of a strange and golden wood, with fronts of exquisite glass and containing the mummified forms of creatures outreaching in grotesqueness and most chaotic dreams of man. What was that? I think that was a subscription. I haven't... Those notifications usually don't work, so that caught me off guard a little. My apologies. Let me continue. To convey any kind of these monstrosities is impossible. They were of the reptile kind, which... And if that was a subscription notification, thank you. Or if a follow, thank you. They were of the reptile kind with body lines suggesting sometimes the crocodile, sometimes the seal, but more often nothing more of which either naturalist or paleontologist ever heard. In size, they approximated a small man, and their forelegs bore delicate and evident feet curiously like human hands and fingers, but strangest of all were their heads, which presented a contour violating all known biological principles. To nothing can such things be well compared. In one flash I thought of comparisons as varied as the cat, the bullfrog, the mythic satyr, and a human being. Not Jove himself had so colossal and protuberant a forehead, yet the horns and the noselessness and the alligator-like jaw placed things outside all established categories. I debated for a time on the reality of the mummies, half suspecting they were artificial idols, but soon decided they were indeed some Paleogene species which had lived when the Nameless city was alive. To crown their grotesqueness, most of them were gorgeously enrobed in the costliest of fabrics and lavish laden with ornaments of gold, jewels, and unknown shining metals. Ooh. Oh, Ivan. Oh. They do I was kind of thinking of kobolds myself when he was being described. Hold up, give me 1 minute. Ivan's got censored, and I want to read. I want to see what he said. Ooh. I'm just going to take this as a break real quick just to get a drink, and then I'm going to continue reading. Okay. Get a drink, and then I'm going to continue reading. I'm a little annoyed that got censored. I pulled up the stream to see what it said. Mark Zuckerberg, it did, you know, it's his people. It's subterranean lizard people, and that is true. Oh, okay. And let me click on that. Okay, we're good. I've had my drink. I was able to read chat properly. Let us continue. The importance of these crawling creatures must have been vast. Oh, thank you for the subscription, Jeepers. Ooh. The importance of these crawling creatures must have been vast, for they held first place among the wild designs of the frescoed walls and ceiling, which matchless skills and artists drawn them in a world of their own, wherein they had cities and gardens fashioned to suit their dimensions, and I could not help but think that their pictured history was allegorical, perhaps showing the progress of their race that worshipped them. These creatures, I said to myself, were to men of the Nameless city that the she-wolf was to Rome, or some totem beast is to a tribe of Indians. Holding this view, I could trace roughly a wonderful epic of the Nameless City, the tale of a mighty seacoast metropolis that ruled the world before Africa rose out of the waves, and of its struggles as the sea shrank away, the desert crept into the fertile valley and held it. I saw its wars and triumphs, its troubles and defeats, and afterwards its terrible fight against the desert when thousands of its people, here represented in the allegory by the grotesque reptiles, were driven to chisel their way down through the rocks in some marvelous manner to another world whereof their prophets had told them. It was all vividly weird and realistic, and the connection with the awesome descent I had made was unmistakable. I even recognized the passages. As I crept along the corridor toward the brighter light, I saw later stages of painted epic, the leave-taking of the race that had dwelt in the Nameless City and the valley around of 10 million years, the race whose soul shrank from quitting scenes their bodies had known so long, where they had settled as nomads in the earth's youth, hewing in the virgin rock those primal shrines at which they had never ceased to worship. Now that the light was better, I studied the picture more closely, and remembering that the strange reptiles must represent the unknown men, pondered upon the customs of the Nameless City. Many things were peculiar and inexplicable. Speaking of that, has he said where the light's coming from? The civilization, which included a written alphabet, had seemingly risen to a higher order than those immeasurably later civilizations of Egypt and Chaldea. The only reason I know that's Chaldea is because Caldera, but anyways. Yet there were curious omissions. I could, for example, find no picture to represent deaths or funeral customs, save such as were related to wars, violence, or plagues. And I wondered at the reticence shown concerning natural death. It was as though an ideal of immortality had been fostered as a cheering illusion. Or they're not dead. They're just sleeping. Still nearer the end of the passage was painted scenes of the utmost picturesqueness and extravagance, contrasted views of the Nameless City in its desertion and growing ruin, and of the strange new realm of paradise to which the race had hewed its way through the stone. In these views, the city and the desert valley were shown always by moonlight, golden nimbus hovering over the fallen walls and half revealing the splendid perfection of former times, shown spectrally and elusively by the artists. No, that shouldn't be there. Sorry. By the artists. The almost said parasocial. Paradisal scenes were almost too extravagant to believe, portraying a hidden world of eternal day filled with glorious cities and ethereal hills and valleys. At the very last, I thought I saw signs of an artistic anticlimax. The paintings were less skillful and much more bizarre than even the wildest of the earlier scenes. They seemed to record a slow decadence of ancient stock, coupled with a growing ferocity towards the outside world from which it was driven by the desert. The forms of the people, always represented by the sacred reptiles, appeared to be gradually wasting away, though their skin, as shown hovering above the ruins by moonlight, remained in proportion. Emaciated priests displayed as reptiles in ornate robes cursed the upper air and all who breathed it. And one terrible final scene showed a primitive-looking man, perhaps a pioneer of ancient Iram, the city of pillars, torn to pieces by members of the elder race. I remembered how the Arabs feared the Nameless city, and was glad that beyond this place the gray walls and ceiling were bare. As I viewed the pageant of mural history, I had approached very closely to the end of the low sealed hall and was aware of a gate through which came all the illuminating phosphorescence. Thank you, I was wondering about that. Creeping up to it, I cried aloud in transcendent amazement at what lay beyond. For instead of other and brighter chambers, there was only an illuminatable void of uniform radiance, such one might fancy when gazing down from the peak of Mount Everest upon a sea of sunlit mist. Behind me was a passage so cramped that I could not stand upright in it. Before me was an infinity of subterranean effulgence. Reaching down from the passage into the abyss was the head of a steep flight of steps, small, numerous steps, like those of the black passages I had traversed. But after a few feet, the glowing vapors concealed everything. Swung back open against the left-hand wall of the passage was a massive door of brass, incredibly thick and decorated with fantastic bas reliefs, which could, if closed, shut the hole in a world of light away from the vaults and passages of rocks. I looked at the steps, and for the nonce dared not try them. I touched the open brass door and could not move it. When I sank prone to the stone floor, my mind aflame with prodigious reflections which not even death-like exhaustion could banish. Drink. Stay hydrated. As I lay still with closed eyes, fear to ponder many things I had lightly noted in the frescoes came back to me with new and terrible significance. Scenes representing the Nameless city in its heyday, the vegetations of the valley around it, the distant lands with which its merchants traded. The allegory of the crawling creatures puzzled me by its universal prominence, and I wondered that it would be so closely followed in a pictured history of such importance. In the frescoes, the Nameless city had been shown in proportion fitted to the reptiles. I wondered what its real proportions and magnificence had been, and reflected a moment on certain oddities I had noticed in the ruins. I thought curiously of the lowness of the primal temple and of the underground corridor, which were doubtless hewn thus out of deference to the reptile deities there honored, though it perforce reduced the worshippers to crawling. Perhaps the very rites were involved crawling in imitation of the creatures. No religious theory, however, could easily explain why the level passage in that awesome descent should be as low as the temples, or lower, since one could not even kneel in it. As I thought of the crawling creatures whose hideous mummified forms were so close to me, I felt a new throb of fear. Mental associations are curious, and I shrank from the idea that, except for the poor primitive man torn to pieces in the last painting, mine was the only human form amidst the many relics and symbols of the primordial life. But as always in my strange and roving existence, wonder soon drove me out. So I soon drove out fear for the luminous abyss that it might. I'm going to restart that one. For the luminous abyss and what it might contain presented a problem worthy of the greatest explorer, that a weird world of mystery lay far down, that flight of peculiarly small steps I could not doubt, and I hoped to find there those human memorials which the painted corridor had failed to give. The frescoes had pictured unbelievable cities and valleys in this low realm, and my fancy dwelt on the rich and colossal ruins that awaited me. My fears indeed concerned the past rather than the future, not even the physical horror of my position in the cramped corridor of dead reptiles and antediluvian frescoes miles below the world I knew, and faced by another world of eerie light and mist, could match the lethal dread I felt at the abysmal antiquity of the scene and its soul. An ancientness so vast that measurement is feeble seemed to leer down from the primal stones and rock-hewn temples of the Nameless city, while the very latest of the astounding maps in fresco showed oceans and continents that man has forgotten, with only here and there some vaguely familiar outlines of what could have happened in the geological ages since the painting ceased and the death-hating race resentfully succumbed to decay. No man might say life had once teemed in these caverns and in the luminous realm beyond. Now I was alone with vivid relics, and I trembled to think of the countless ages through which these relics had kept a silent, deserted vigil. Suddenly there came another burst of that acute fear which had intermittently seized me ever since I first saw the terrible valley in the Nameless city under a cold moon, and despite my exhaustion, I found myself starting frantically to a sitting posture and gazing back along the black corridor towards the tunnels that rose to the outer world. My sensations were like those which had made me shun the Nameless city at night, and were as inexplicable as they were poignant. In another moment, however, I received still greater shock in the form of a definite sound, the first which had broken the utter silence of these tomb-like depths. It was deep, low moaning, as of a distant throng of condemned spirits, and came from the direction in which I was staring. Its volume rapidly grew, till it soon reverberated frightfully through the low passage, and at the same time I became conscious of an increasing draught of cold air likewise flowing from the tunnels and the city above. The touch of this air seemed to restore my balance for I instantly recalled the sudden gusts which had risen around the mouth of the abyss each sunset and sunrise, one of which had indeed revealed the hidden tunnels to me. I looked at my watch, and it saw that the sunrise was near, so braced myself to resist the gale that was sweeping down to its cavern home. As it had swept forth at evening, my fear again waned low, since the natural phenomenon tends to dispel broodings over the unknown. I don't know what's natural about what you're describing, but you rest assured in your cope. More and more madly poured the shrieking, moaning night wind into the gulf of the inner earth. I dropped prone again and clutched vainly at the floor for fear of being swept bodily through the open gate into the phosphorescent abyss. Such fury. Sorry. Such fury I had not expected, and as I grew aware of an actual slipping of my form towards the abyss, I saw I was beset by 1,000 new terrors of apprehension and imagination. The malignancy of the blast awakened incredible fancies. Once more I compared myself shudderingly to the only human image in the frightful corridor, the man who was torn to pieces by the nameless race. For in the fiendish... Thought I heard something. For in the fiendish clawing of the swirling currents, there seemed to abide a vindictive rage, all the stronger because it was largely impotent. I think I screamed frantically near the last. I was almost mad, but if I did so, my cries were lost in the hell-born babble of the howling wind wraiths. I tried to crawl against the murderous, invisible torrent, but I could not even hold my own as I was pushed slowly and inexorably towards the unknown world. Finally, reason must have wholly snapped, for I fell to babbling over and over that inexplained couplet of the mad Arab Alhazred, who dreamed of the nameless city. That is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange aeons even death may die. Only the grim, brooding desert gods know what really took place, what indescribable struggle and scramble in the dark I endured, or what Abaddon guided me back to life, where I must always remember and shiver in the night wind till oblivion, or worse, claims me. Monstrous, unnatural, colossal was the thing, too far beyond all the ideas of man to be believed except in a silent, damnable small hours of the morning when one cannot sleep. I have said that the fury of the rushing blast was infernal, cacodemonical, and... technically read that wrong, but whatever. And that its voices were hideous, with the pent-up viciousness of desolate eternities. Presently, these voices, while still chaotic before me, seemed to my beating brain to take articulate form behind me, and down there in the grave of unnumbered aeon-dead antiquities, leagues below the dawn-lit world of men, I heard the ghastly cursing and snarling of strange-tongued fiends. Turning, I saw outlined against the luminous aether of the abyss that could not be seen against the dusk of the corridor, a nightmare horde of rushing devils, hate-distorted, grotesquely panoplied, half-transparent devils of the race of no man might mistake the crawling reptiles of the nameless city. And as the wind died away, I was plunged into the ghoul-pooled darkness of earth's bowels, for behind the last of the creatures, the great brazen door clanged shut with the deafening peal of a metallic music whose reverberations swelled out of the distant world to hail the rising sun of Mammon, hails it's from the banks of the Nile. Ooh, I like that one a lot. Okay, sorry, I was just rereading the last line. And that took us to almost exactly an hour. Excellent. Ooh. And with that done, actually, originally we were going to draw Shogmami because she's an eldritch deity. Let me get that up real quick for you, chat. Oh. Wait. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Um. Uh-oh. Well, I wanted to do a hand cam, but the hand cam appears to not be responding. Let me try this to see if it's a processing issue. Please turn on. Uh-oh. I don't want to end it there because I had the whole... Well, the hand cam's important because that's literally how we're going to be drawing Shogmami tonight, but I don't want to do the line work on the thing piece because that doesn't really feel fitting. We had an eldritch deity set up to draw. I also wanted to draw those kobold looking things. Let me just check some things and see if I can get it to... I know why it deactivated. I know why this is happening, and that's the frustrating part. I thought it wouldn't happen. Fingers crossed. Well, what's a VTuber stream without technical difficulties? I'm going to try 1 or 2 minutes of trying to get it to be fixed, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do anything. It's the waiting that kills me. But I like how the story, I kind of like how it's just like the natural phenomenon of the wind being sucked in and out from this like temple, and it's just like, you're not really paying attention to like what's happening around you. Ooh. Okay. It looks like there's a problem with the source itself, so what I'm gonna try to do is hope this is not a bad idea. Hope I don't face dox myself by accident. Yeah, it's OBS is broken, crap. I guess we're gonna have to end it there for tonight. That's really disappointing, because that means it's a very short stream. Oh crap, I think, oh, ooh. Yeah, it looks like we have to cancel it there because it's all camera functions are just not working on OBS right now. I created, at risk of face doxing myself, I created another one because I say at risk of face doxing myself because it automatically defaults to my face cam, but it looks like it just won't accept any camera inputs right now, and I don't know why. So I know how to make sure that won't be a problem in the future, but it's because... Wait a minute. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. This probably won't fix it. But no. Okay. This will either fix it or this will crash OBS. Let's see what happens. I don't know why OBS wants to crash right now. Do I have glaze open? No. But that is not a correct video format, so let's do this. Let's go to here. Save. And if nothing happens, we're just gonna end stream, and I'm gonna just start looking now for places to send you guys, in all honesty. Ugh. Let me start with Twitch. I don't know if anyone's on Twitch, but I will try to link you guys out to Twitch. Please, God, tell me you're still streaming. You're not still streaming. Okay, well then I'm just gonna link you out to Lulu Lasso.
Horses like their fairies.
Okay. On Twitch, I'm gonna link you out to Lulu Lasso. Yep, it's still not working, even when I closed. Yeah, even when I closed all the extra programs, it's still not working. And for YouTube, because it looks like OBS itself might crash at this rate, so let me find somewhere to link you guys out to. Sorry for the abrupt end of stream, but I really like that story, and hopefully we can do that. We can do more drawing soon. Can I please see my... Oh my god. I don't like linking out to really big streamers, but because we're playing Clair Obscura tomorrow, I'm gonna link you guys out to Iris on YouTube. Ooh. But usually I don't like to link out to bigger streamers for obvious reasons, especially corporate streamers. Not because anything against corporate, just because I don't know, like, if it's a faux pas, but simply because we are playing Clair Obscura tomorrow. I'm gonna link out to that, because I know some of you guys like that game. So, we will be back tomorrow. Hopefully we'll start a little earlier than we did today for Clair Obscura, because that is a really fun game. We'll hopefully be playing that for a lot longer than this. We won't just have an hour-long stream. Hopefully that'll be like a 5-hour stream, because I really like that game. And though I was not able to draw the Shog Mommy with you guys today, I'll do my best to have that in a presentable form by tomorrow, so I can share that with you. But in the meantime, thank you anyone who has liked, or any new subscribers or followers as well. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have enjoyed it. But in the meantime, before the next stream, I want to wish you to have a great day, a wonderful life, and to remember, don't lose your head. This is Merrick Vespa signing off from me to you.